I'm not sure who needs to really hear this, but there's a trap that almost every project manager falls into, and most of them don't even realize what's happening. They're sitting in a room full of criticism and calling it feedback. They're shrinking under it, internalizing it, and letting it shape the kind of leader they become. I've been there. And what I've learned from this is leadership gives feedback, management gives criticism. And I'm here to show you what the difference is. I remember finding myself in an environment where conversations were about my work felt really under attack. It's not what I was doing, it was what I was not doing. I started making small mistakes I would normally never make, not because I lost my skill, not because I knew that I didn't know better, but because I was spending so much mental energy making sure everything was polished and bulletproof before anyone could point it out. And that really was operating more in fear and not in confidence. That thing got worse. When I tried to explain my thinking, when I tried to bring context to the very conversation we were having, I was told I was being defensive. Let that sink in for a minute. You ask for my point of view, I give it to you, and now I'm the problem. That's not feedback, that's control. Therefore, I started to shrink. I stopped leading, and then I started managing. I was surviving the room instead of actually owning it. But then I had a conversation with the leader who did something completely different. There's a line from Carlito's Way. If you can't see the angles no more, you are in trouble. See, that person sat me down to point out everything that was wrong, but to help me see around the corner, to show me how to think and not just what to fix. And that was how my thinking and my critical thinking got better. Therefore, I made a decision. I was done letting other people's limited experience write my story. Criticism was never going to be my ceiling, and I was going to become the kind of leader that shows people the angles instead of just pointing out the mistakes. That shift alone didn't just change how I led, it changed who I actually became. Principle number one, criticism is often lazy communication. Ooh, this is going to be a tough episode for some family. See, criticism is what happens when someone sees a problem but has no desire, no patience, or leadership maturity to actually provide solutions or basically solve it. It's easy to point out what went wrong, but it takes far more skill to step in with clarity, direction, and actually support. In many places, criticism gets disguised as standards, but it's often just poor communication, wearing maybe a suit or even a blazer. Why is this important? If you constantly surround by people who only know how to criticize instead of clarify, it slowly distorts your confidence and decision-making. And basically over time, you'll stop operating with leadership and start operating with protection. Experiment with these actual tips. Pay attention to patterns, not isolated comment. If someone only shows up to point out what went wrong, but never helps to create alignment, that is a pattern worth noticing. Next one, ask one follow-up question when criticized. Here's a good example. What would better have looked? How would this better have looked in your opinion? See, that's a question that exposes whether they have wisdom or is this just commentary. Here's my professional advice, family. Not every critical voice in the room is credible. Some people are not even offering leadership. They're just narrating from the sidelines after the play has already happened. And I know what you're thinking. That's exactly why project managers need to learn the difference between something that only identifies a problem and something that actually helps solve one. Principle number two, criticism points at the problem. Feedback walks towards the solution. Oh, this is getting good. See, criticism says that didn't go well, but feedback, see, feedback does this. It says, here's what we could have made that. Here's how we could have made that stronger, or here's how we can improve it next time. One leaves you exposed. The other one equips you. See, real feedback does not just call out the issue. It moves towards a solution, actually with you. Why is this important? Project managers live in environments where there's always something to improve. You cannot tell the difference between criticism and feedback. If you will start receiving every correction as an attack, or even worse, you start normalizing being poorly developed. Experiment with these actual tips. When receiving input, I want you to ask yourself this question. Did this help me understand what to do differently next time? The answer is no. It probably wasn't feedback. Next one, train yourself to translate vague comments into clarity. Here's a good example. Can you help me understand what stronger would have looked like here? Basically, what I'm saying here, family, is how could I have done better? What do you think I could have done better at? Here's my professional advice, family. Good feedback should not just expose a gap. It should make the path forward a lot easier to see. Because see, the real danger is not just how criticism sounds in that moment, is what it starts doing to your mindset over time. Principle number 3, feedback changes behavior, criticism changes moods. Okay, this is going to be tough. See, feedback, it creates movement. It gives you something useful to adjust, strengthen, or improve. Criticism often changes that emotional atmosphere more than an actual outcome. It creates frustration, hesitation, self-doubt, and more or less, you know that word we use at the beginning, defensiveness. See, it affects how you feel more than actually how you perform. Why is this important? Project managers cannot lead effectively when they're emotionally bracing for impact every time they speak, send an update, or walk into a meeting. See, if criticism is the dominant culture, people stop experimenting, stop challenging, and stop speaking up. And actually, you know what they really start doing? They start shrinking. So experiment with these actionable tips. After a hard conversation, I want you to ask, did I leave here with a lesson or just a feeling? See, that one question will actually tell you a lot. My next one, journal reoccurring emotional triggers. If the same people or the same environments keep putting you in a fear mode, that is not something you need to ignore. You need to pay very close attention to it. Here's my professional advice. If the primary result of someone's feedback is emotional heaviness instead of practical growth, it is not helping you as much as you think it is. And once you realize that, you start seeing something deeper. Not everybody correcting you is actually leading you. Oh, this is getting good, family. Principle number 4, leadership gives you feedback. Management gives you criticism. Know which one you're receiving and which one you are actually becoming. See, leadership develops people. Management without maturity often just monitors, corrects, and they're not proactive, they're reactive. Leadership said, let me help you to grow. Criticism-driven management says, you should have already known this. And if you stay in the criticism-heavy environment long enough, you can accidentally become what actually damages you. Oh, that's tough. Why is this important? Project managers do not just receive culture, they eventually reproduce it. If you're not careful, the way you are handling it can become the way you start handling others. Here's some actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with yourself. Audit your leadership style. Ask yourself, when people make mistakes around me, do I respond with clarity or frustration? Next one, model what you wish you had received. When someone misses the mark, give them the context, the support, and next steps, not just the disappointment. Here's my professional advice, family. A lot of people think leadership is being the one who sees what is wrong. Real leadership is helping people become stronger after you've actually seen it. That's a shout right there. I know what you're thinking though, because if all project managers receive over time as criticism, it just doesn't affect their communication. It starts changing how they actually lead. Principle number 5, a PM who only receives criticism eventually starts to manage instead of lead. See, when a project manager is constantly criticized, they stop operating from vision, confidence, as well as presence. Instead, they begin over-explaining. They begin over-polishing. They begin over-protecting themselves because of the fear, the concern of, well, I won't even go there. But I will tell you, they focus more on avoiding blame than driving outcome. That is not leadership. That is survival dressed up as professionalism. Why is this important? One of the fastest way to quietly destroy a strong project manager is to put them in an environment where they are always defending instead of directing. They may still look functional on the outside, but internally, they are no longer leading from strength. Experiment with these actionable tips. Notice where you have started overcompensating, over-documenting, over-explaining, or delaying action just to avoid being criticized. Next one, reclaim one leadership behavior this week. Speak first in the meeting. Challenge a weak assumption. Ask the hard question. Lead once where fear told you to stay small. Here's my professional advice, family. If you've been surviving an environment far too long, do not confuse that with survival mode with true leadership capacity. because I want to tell you this. Once you understand what criticism can do to your leadership, you'll also start to understand why real feedback is so valuable. Principle number 6, feedback is a gift. Criticism, about to get in trouble. Criticism is a transaction. See, feedback is a gift because it requires thought, care, and intention. It is given to help you grow, not just to make the other person feel heard, superior, or even justified. But criticism is transactional. What do you mean, ED? It says, I saw a problem. Guess what else I saw? I saw the problem, so I pointed it out. My job is done. But no, it's not. See, feedback stays in the room long enough to help you carry the actual lesson. Why does this matter? Project managers need to stop giving equal emotional value to every opinion that comes their way. Some input is platinum. Some input is gold, but other input is nothing but a lot of noise. And if you do not know the difference, you will waste time trying to honor feedback that was never really meant to help you in the first place. Experiment with these actionable tips. Ask yourself after receiving input, was this offered to help me grow or just to release someone else's frustration? Next one, keep a running list of feedback that actually made you better. That helps you build a filter for what real development looks like. Here's my professional advice, family. A gift leaves you with something useful, but a transaction usually leaves you carrying the bill. And how many of us got a lot of receipts? I won't even start. And once you understand that, family, you will stop taking every voice personally, because not every messenger deserves the equal authority in your life. Principle number 7, the PM who learns to separate the message from the messenger will never, and I do repeat, will never be trapped. One of the most mature things as a project manager can learn is how to take what is useful without being emotionally trapped by who delivered it. Sometimes the message has value, even if the delivery was poor. Sometimes the messenger is loud and confident, but is actually wrong. Maturity is extracting the lesson without swallowing or drinking the actual poison. Why is this important? If you tie your growth too closely to people's delivery, tone, or title, you will never reject a good lesson or internalize a bad one. Neither helps you lead well. Experiment with these actual tips. After receiving criticism or feedback, I want you to ask 2 separate questions. First one, is there any truth in this? And next one, does this person deserve access to my identity? Next one, practice emotional separation before a reaction. Give yourself time before responding so you can process the content instead of reacting to the energy. Here's my professional advice, family. Not every person who delivers a message has earned the right to actually define you. And when you really start mastering that, something kind of powerful happens. Criticism stops feeling like a threat and starts becoming something you know how to process. Principle number 8, confidence is not the absence of criticism, it's the ability to navigate it effectively. See, confident does not mean nobody criticizes you. No, this is not what we're saying. What we're saying is it means you are grounded enough to hear what is useful and you release, and I say release what is not, and keep moving without letting every comment shake your identity. Confident PMs are not unshaken because life is easy. They are unshaken because they have learned how to process pressure without becoming it. Why is this important? If you are waiting to become confident only after everyone validates you, I'm going to tell you, you might as well get in line, because you're going to be waiting forever. Leadership requires the ability to remain anchored even when misunderstood, questioned, or most of all, challenge. Experiment with these actual tips. Build a personal process habit. What does that look like? Whether it's journaling, walking, praying, reflecting, give criticism somewhere to go besides your internal nervous system. Next one, measure yourself by patterns, not isolated moments. One comment does not define your leadership. One bad day does not cancel your entire growth. Here's my professional advice, family. The goal is not to become untouchable. The goal is to become rooted that even poor delivery cannot throw you off your direction. And once you learn how to embrace criticism instead of being controlled by it, you stop needing every room to understand you, because you finally understand yourself. Here's the truth, family. A lot of project managers are carrying wounds from environments that call criticism development. And if you're not careful, That kind of environment will train you to question your voice, second guess your instincts, and shrink your leadership to fit the room. But hear me clearly, hear me closely. Not every voice deserves that kind of access to you. Feedback should sharpen you. It should strengthen you. It should even help you see the angles. And if all someone ever does is point out what is wrong without helping you become better, I don't know about you, family, but that's just noise. And you do not need to become smaller just because someone else could never learn how to lead effectively. Once you learn this, you'll start moving differently. Got 3 things I need of you, family. 1, share this episode with a peer in your network that's sitting in a room right now, mistaking criticism for feedback and shrinking because of it. Number 2, send me a comment, drop a comment. Let me know if this hit home. And number 3, when you're ready to stop surviving in an environment and start leading in spite of it, check the link in the description. Let's build a better leader in you. And if you're new to the episode, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.